talk in media about the $11 billion that is coming from the National Housing Trust to the government coffers. And I want to say at the onset that Mark Golding really is no match for Andrew Holness, you know, in terms of vision, in terms of leadership capacity. Holness has developed a reputation of trust with his fellow Jamaicans that and patriotism. I don't think Golding is there. And I see the opposition leader making a lot of mistakes. And on the NHT drawdown, he again has blundered. Most of the times that Mr. Golding speaks, he comes across as a man that is not sure about what he really wants to say. And it is worrying. It's almost like he's trying to find, you know, something to criticize. And, you know, in moments of national strain, the tone of political leadership matters, you know, the tone. And I would advise Mr. Golding to consider his tone. Last week he spoke about the throne speech lacked, you know, spark or sizzle. And this week he's criticizing the $11 billion drawdown from the NHT. Golding is lacking in substance. The opposition leader is lacking in substance, for he has presented no alternative as to how to plug an $11 billion hole in the budget that his party initiated. And although he has been forceful in highlighting what he sees as failures surrounding the National Housing Trust, to be an effective opposition requires not only criticisms, but alternatives And if the argument is that the $11 billion drawdown should end immediately, the country deserves to know how the resulting budget gap would be filled. You can't come out, Mr. Mark, and suggest that the government should stop taking $1 billion is 1,000 million. Okay? $1 billion is $1,000 million. 11 billion is a lot of money. You can't suggest that the 11 billion drawdown should end. The country deserves to know how you plan to fill it. You know, opposition is easy, you know. You can always chat. Governing is not. And so Mr. Goley needs to tell us if he would raise taxes. Now, just look what is happening here. The opposition is asking for more money for hurricane relief victims. The opposition is asking for more money for its members of parliament. The opposition is making budgetary demands on the government. Yet it don't want the government to increase taxes, and it wants the government to give up revenue. That make any sense? Talk to me. That make any sense to you? The government is to give up the 11 billion. It must not raise any taxes, but it must increase expenditure. You know, constructive opposition strengthens democracy. But the opposition must propose credible alternatives and reassure the public that there is a viable governing option waiting in the wings. And I have to confess that listening to the opposition over the last couple of months, they're not a viable group at all. No, they're not viable. The opposition is not offering any leadership to Jamaica at this time. There's nothing coming out of the opposition that remotely resembles that they are ready for government. They're not ready. And you know, Mr. Nigel Clark did point that out in one of his budget presentations, that they're not ready. They're not ready. If you should go by what Mr. Mark Golin is suggesting, Jamaica would suffer a catastrophic economic collapse. If the government takes on Goldin's prescription, Jamaica would experience a collapse of its economy. It cannot work. It is just, and you know, I hear Mr. Abka Fitzhenley saying that Mr. Mark Golin is playing politics. Golding has been reckless. And I don't know why, because, we don't have an election at the moment. There's no impending election. So why is Mr. Golding being so political? Why? I don't understand at all. The history of the People's National Party does not suggest that they are a party that make very good fiscal decisions, They don't. And one would expect that the economic debate would be grounded in realism rather than rhetorical contrasts. And this is especially important because Jamaica is recovering from a disaster. A hurricane does not pause your obligations. It does not suspend infrastructure cost. It does not eliminate the need for fiscal buffers. In such periods, public confidence depends on political maturity across the aisles. One of the disappointing things, and the wool has been drawn over the Jamaican people's eyes, because a lot of people in Jamaica just don't understand the issues. They don't take the time to figure it out. One of the disappointing things that has happened in Jamaica over the last couple of months, is that the hurricane has laid bare how politically desperate and unpatriotic the opposition is. And even if we do not want to question their patriotism, we have to question their posture. Because an opposition that is solution-based is one that says, here's how we would do it. Here is how we would do it. Now, I want to ask Mr. Golding and Mr. Robinson to tell us how you plan to finance the recovery efforts. And if you give up the $11 billion, we'll get to that. If you give up the $11 billion, what do you plug it with? The opposition is not solution-based. They are failing the people of Jamaica. Their supporters. They are failing their own supporters. To just come and talk about give up $11 billion is irresponsible, Mark. That is irresponsible. You don't give up $11 billion like that without finding a way to and showing the people of Jamaica how you plan to replace that money, regardless of where it is coming from. The first thing that you need to understand, Jamaicans, is that this is a budgetary expense on the government's books. Jamaica's political culture benefits when disagreements are anchored in practical proposals. Because citizens are less interested in who can deliver the sharpest rebuke. People are more interested in who can secure economic stability, growth, and resilience. And that is why the Jamaica Labour Party is in their third term. And there are many who are suggesting that they are going to get a fourth term. Because at the end of the day, comrades, the Jamaican people have moved away from the political rhetoric that not carry them going away. People want solutions. People want economic stability. People want economic growth and resilience. And in times of recovery, especially now, the country does not need less scrutiny. It needs more scrutiny. But those scrutinies must be grounded in numbers. They must be grounded in alternatives. And they must be grounded in shared national interests. It's not sufficient to come out and say the government should not. What you need to do is tell us what would you do to fill it. So the debate is to end the NHT drawdown. And I'm going to get to that right after this break. I'll tell you how it can be ended when I return from this break. Please stop the screen and share the live. All right. So the debate over the $11 billion annual drawdown from the National Housing Trust has once again returned to the political stage. Critics portray it as reckless. And there are some who say it is necessary. I want to take you beyond the rhetoric, and I'm going to put before you some serious questions. How does a country responsibly unwind a fiscal measure once it has been embedded in the national budget? Scratchy made this point. Golding, you know, the Prime Minister said Mark Golding is not a man to trust. And Mr. Golding need to stop it. You need to stop it, Mark. Golding, you have to stop it, you know. You know, there's a lady, oh, let me talk. There's a lady. Yeah. See the lady here?
Doctor, I mean...
there's a lady who said something about Mr. Mark. Listen to her.
Tax office video in you because of this Mark Golding one in go there. In hang up in Jamaica with no face but in my face of Jamaica. Mark Golding, you will never go right here. You see where Andrew there? This is the tax office in Clarendon. And you cannot be no face in Jamaica. Move on left about your trouble bust a pit the depend and all those things. You see when you trouble pit the Mark Golding, you trouble all the PNP them too. Touch not the law the 19th.
That somebody sent that to me. Mr. Golding needs to stop it. It's a very reckless man. Golding is proving to be reckless. To suggest that it is easy to unwind $11 billion out of the budget, Mr. Golding knows it can't happen. I'm telling you that. And I'm telling you, Jamaicans, it can't happen. If the government gives up the $11 billion, something have to suffer. What are we prepared to give up that is now being taken care of by that $11 billion? $1 billion is 1,000 million. Let me do the calculation, and it's not about where it's coming from, you know. It's just that the PNP opened the door.
Listeners, could you please tap the screen and share the live, please? And remember to repost the live.
Thank you. So let's understand what we're talking about here, my neighbors. 1 billion is 1,000 million. So let's multiply it. 11 billion is 11 times 1,000 is 11,000 million. You understand how much money that is? $11,000 million. You know how many people is in Jamaica? So if you give 11,000 people in Jamaica $1 million, that's the amount of money that Mr. Golini suggested the government gives up. And how do you replace that money? $11 billion is not just symbolic. Let's begin with the arithmetic. Okay? Let's break it down for you. This is not just a symbolic number, you know. It's not theoretical. It is already allocated within the Jamaican expenditure framework. If you remove it tomorrow, then you leave a hole in the budget, because budgets do not balance themselves. If the drawdown ended immediately, the government would have four choices. Four choices. One, it would have to raise taxes. And the PNP is saying, no more taxes. See how hypocritical they are becoming. Government would have to raise taxes. Secondly, the government would have to borrow more. Thirdly, the government would have to cut spending, or it combines all three. Raise some tax, borrow some, and cut some spending. And so replacing 11 billion through taxation means higher consumption taxes, fuel taxes, or income taxes. Borrowing would increase the national debt and add interest payments years to come. You're talking about $11,000 million. Cutting expenditure would mean real reductions, fewer infrastructure, projects, constrained social services, tighter public payrolls, reduced disaster reserves. These are not scare tactics. These are fiscal facts. And this is where political memory becomes selective. The drawdown was introduced under the People's National Party. The drawdown of $11 billion was not a policy that the Labour Party supported. Mr. Golding is correct when he suggested that the Labour Party did not support the drawdown of the $11 billion. Why did the PNP introduce the $11 billion? Why? Because according to them, they had limited fiscal space. And Golding said they got advice that, you know, they could take money from the NHT to support the budget. And so they took out this money out of the NHT. But here is the challenge. Once you implement a measure, that measure becomes part of the fiscal architecture of the country. I want to repeat that for you to understand. Once you introduce an income into the budget, what I tell you, then that becomes part of the fiscal architecture of Jamaica. Governments inherit budgets, not blank slates. You do not simplify debate of $11 billion in recurring revenue without consequences. You don't give that up without consequences. And this is the difference, you know, between opposition and government. Opposition can promise reversals. Governance must confront the arithmetic. When you're in opposition, you can't say what you want to say. You see, when you get the budget and the teachers start lining up for them pay, and the nurses start put through for them pay, and them start get uneasy and restless, and the police cars want gas, and the hospitals want medication, and the roads are full of pothole. Yes, and people want relief from hurricane. You think that opposition is? Let me tell you this. I am sure that the Prime Minister goes to his bed late, and I'm sure that his mind is always occupied with all of these decisions to make. Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? Oppositions though, Mr. Golding have him $25 million salary that him collect. Yes. Once you introduce a measure, it becomes part of the fiscal architecture of the country. There is a difference between opposition and government. Opposition can promise reversals, but the government must confront the arithmetic, and that is what Holness recognized when he became government, that he had to confront the arithmetic. You know, Edmund Burke describes society as a partnership across generations. Fiscal policy works the same way. Decisions that are made in one administration bind the next. So it's not like the government can go in and don't pay the debt that the PNP took on, you know, and it works vice versa. Governments are continuum. When governments enter into arrangements, it's not the party. When the party comes out of government, that arrangement dies. No. Governments inherit budgets. They inherit debt. They inherit expenditures. And they are bound to it. So you can't ask the government to give up $11 billion when you were the one that brought it on the budget. It can't come off like that, comrades. It cannot come off the budget just like that. You shouldn't have brought it on there in the first place, comrades. That is it. That is the error you made. And the opposition at the time, who is the government now, was correct. That you shouldn't have done that. Don't say, because you say you would reverse it when you come. That principle still remains. But the government have to confront the arithmetic before them. It can't just dismiss the budget. Don't fool up the Jamaican people, man. This is not how it go. I tell you. Is the PNP put it there? It is the people's. If anybody is to be blamed for this, don't blame the Labour Party. Leave Mr. Holness alone. Mr. Holness never take no money out of the NHT. He's not. It is not the Jamaica Labour Party that is taking. Listeners, just get this clear. It is not the Jamaica Labour Party government that is taking $11 billion out of the NHT. It is not the Jamaica Labour Party doing it. The Jamaica Labour Party inherited this policy. And the party should explain it like this. This is how you explain it. It is not this government inherited it as part of the financial architecture of Jamaica. It was already built into the budget. And I will show you later on how it can be removed. The government is right, guys. It cannot give up this money at this point. It cannot do so. And the government is saying that they'll do it in 2031. A number of things will have to happen for that to be done. The PNP should not be so dishonest. They are failing the Jamaican people. It's misinformation. It's disinformation. And quite frankly, it is dishonesty. Because they know better. But the Jamaican people, yes, that are struggling with civic literacy, bite and think that, oh my goodness, the Labour Party can just, is the Labour Party. The Labour Party is not doing it. This was a policy of the People's National Party. They were the ones who opened the door. And it can't shut back so. Decisions made in one administration binds the next. Because responsibility requires continuity. even when politics prefer rupture. Yes, you may say so in opposition. I give you that. You may say what you want from your opposition bench on both sides. But when you get into government, and as I said before, when the police start wanting them pay, and the teachers, and the nurses, and the firemen, and when your garbage trucks broke down, yes, and crime is running the place wild, yes, and you need to pay your public sector workers and service your police cars and fix your schools. You're going to give up $11 billion like that? What are you talking about? You know, we have also seen what happens when the NHT funds are poorly aligned with their core purpose. I didn't hear Mr. Golding mention anything about outer many. You all remember outer many? The failed outer many investment. Now, if we are to do justice to this debate, the Auditor General, when she examined the outer many debacle, it was a cautionary episode. Mr. Gordon is talking about the $11 billion that is going into the consolidated fund to fund services to the people of Jamaica. Approximately $1.5 billion. Hear what I tell you? $1 billion is 1,000 million. So that's 1,500 million. I want to repeat it. So Mr. Golding is not telling the full story. But you come here on Politics Plus, you get the full story. $1 billion is 1,000 million. So that's $1,500 million of NHT resources. Now, the National Housing Trust receives contributions from contributors. Then take it out of your pay. The employee pays part, and the employer makes another pays another on behalf of the employer. So it's a trust. And Mr. Golding talk about housing. Now, how much house could 1,500 million bill? If you give poor people $1 million, they can build a house, you know. Well, not something substantial, but let's drill this down a little bit more. 1.5 billion of NHT resources were exposed to a commercial risk in a venture that ultimately collapsed. The PNP did not only take 11 billion out of the National Housing Trust. Under their watch, 1.5 billion ended up in a scandal. Now you tell me, who has the moral authority? Who has the moral authority to speak about NHT funds and to speak about housing for the people of Jamaica? You know, the wool is being pulled over the Jamaican people eyes, you know. and to empower the poor, you see, it is important that poor people understand who really care for them. It is essential to move beyond emotional appeals and focus on effective policies that promote economic growth, education, and social welfare. We have to move people beyond the nuanced understanding of issues. The lesson out of Outermany was not that NHT funds can never intersect with broader economic policy. The lesson was prudence. The lesson was oversight and the protection of the National Housing Trust solvency. Solvency means it won't go into bankruptcy. Under the guise of the party now criticizing, $1.5 billion of the National Housing Trust funds collapsed in a failed venture. Has it been repaid? Is that money back at the National Housing Trust? The information coming out of the trust is that it is expected to see a surplus of $14 billion surplus this year. The National Housing Trust is solvent. $11 billion is not hurting the trust. The government is not making a reckless decision to bankrupt the trust, and there is no scandal in that. All the government is doing is continuing a policy put in place by the People's National Party. So today's drawdown does not threaten the solvency of the NHT. The institution remains viable and it continues to fulfill its housing mandate. That should be made clear to the Jamaican people. There is not one house less, not one house. When Mr. Golding conflate the issue about poor people, every day everybody use this word about poor people. Like I said, poor people are chattels. Hey, don't everybody just love talk about poor people, everything about poor people. Yes? This passionate, clientistic idea that somehow you are speaking on behalf of the poor. You're not speaking on behalf of the poor. You want to help the poor? Give them half of your salary. Take half of your salary and you're getting $25 million a year. Give up half of that and give it to the poor if you're really if you're really interested in the poor. Don't talk about poor. Don't talk about poor. Don't talk about poor. You want to talk about poor, right? When your party was in power, how many poor did we have? What was the poverty rate? You had more than nearly 500,000 people without jobs in the country. You come talking about poor? You pander to the poor for votes, brother. You're pandering to the poor for votes. Look at Westmoreland. You talk about poor? What about Westmoreland? Yes? Your party was in government and they were in charge of Westmoreland for how long? Look at how they're living down there. You talk about poor? What did you do for the poor using the same trust? Don't let me talk about Operation Pride. That was supposed to be a housing scheme for the poor. What have you done for the poor of Jamaica? You, Mr. Golding, what have you done for the poor? What is your record of helping the poor? You pander to poor man. Trying to benefit from the dependency mindset. Huh? I don't even want to go too hard, you know. Because I tell you something. Let me put on my book. The solvency of the trust is not threatened. Okay. The institution is continuing to fulfill its mandate, and as Mr. Apka Fitzenley pointed out today, under this government, more houses have been built than any time in the NHT's history. Interest rates are lower now than every time before. This government has done more with the NHT than the PNP's record of housing. You can't match this government's own. So even with the drawdown, the National Housing Trust can fulfill its mandate 100%. And all persons who apply for refunds will get it. Come on, Mr. Golding, do better than that, man. It is very important to make that distinction, you know, that the NHT is solvent. Structured, legislated transfer within a macro fiscal framework are not the same as speculative commercial exposure. The PNP should account for the $1.5 billion scandal at outer many before they come up here to talk about National Housing Trust 11 billion drawdown. Because the most important point here is that the permanent way to end reliance on the NHT drawdown is not through political declaration. It is through economic strength. And that is where wholeness is way ahead. Because I want you to understand that the way that you end the National Housing Trust drawdown is building the economy, growing the economy, creating jobs. And so you're going to end it. And unless we grow this economy, we have to take that money out there. Mr. Golding knows that. But that's not the politically correct things to say, because that won't get you any vote. The permanent way to end the drawdown is not through political declaration. You could declare as much as you want. When you are faced with a bill for hurricane repair of hundreds of billions of dollars, you don't give up $11 billion. You don't do that. That would be reckless of the government. And one thing you can say about Mr. Holness and his government is that they're not reckless. They are thoughtful, and they are doing things in it. And I think that the people of Jamaica, ought to respect that, you know, that the government is acting in their best interests. I think that is important to note. You phase out extraordinary measures by building an economy that no longer needs them. That's how you do it, Mr. Golding. You phase out the NHT $11 billion by building your economy. And I'm telling you this, had it not been for Hurricane Melissa, maybe the government could have done it. With the economy was projected to grow by what, 4%? That's a lot of money. If our economy starts to grow, people are working, then you phase it out. Don't come talk about phase out now. You phase out $11 billion through sustained gross domestic product, GDP growth. through job creation. Yes, you phase it out through expansion of the tax base. Yes, bringing more people out of the informal sector into the formal sector. You phase it out by a reduction of your debt to GDP, which was projected to go to 60% this year, had it not been for the hurricane. You phase out the NHT $11 billion through lower interest burdens. Yes, and you free up fiscal space. You phase it out through strong reserves, where you create buffers for the economy against shocks, including what we are dealing with now. Growth it is that increases government revenues. It increases it organically. Because as employment rises, PAYE grows, and businesses expand. Corporate and consumption taxes increase, debt falls, interest payments decline. Over time, the fiscal room is created by expansion, and it replaces the need for extraordinary transfers. $11 billion in an economy like Jamaica, we can pay it back, but we have to grow the economy. That's how you responsibly unwind $11 billion. You do it gradually. You do it predictably and without destabilizing the budget. That is why the government projects it for 2031. Applaud the government, commend the government. It's a good thing the government is doing. The government is doing it gradually. The government is doing it predictably. The government is doing it without destabilizing the budget and destabilizing the country. And we have to make the point that the hurricane has complicated that path. A major hurricane can instantly require billions in emergency spending and infrastructure repair. In such moments, fiscal flexibility is not a luxury. It's protection. And if you surrender established revenue prematurely in a vulnerable region without that would not be the best decision. So the real debate should not be about who first turned the knob. History has already recorded that. The real question is, who is managing the house responsibly now? Who is strengthening the foundations? Paying down the mortgage, increasing the household income, and ensuring that temporary measures can be retired without collapsing the structure. That's where the debate is. Because ending the NHT drawdown is a legitimate objective, but it must be achieved through growth, discipline, and stability. Not applause lines, not rhetoric. We don't need outrage here. The arithmetic have to add up. It was the PNP who opened the door. And they are now criticizing the drawdown. I don't understand. I see that you know, what are they positioning for? We need to take a more mature position, and that is not to deny that the measure began in a moment of crisis. Yeah, in 2011, just after the world global economic collapse, Jamaica was facing some challenges. Yeah. Jamaica was facing economic challenges in 2011. It is facing it now too. And so if the opposition truly believes the drawdown should end sooner, the debate should shift from accusation to alternatives. Present the numbers, show the replacement revenues, demonstrate how the gap will be filled. Because public finance, in public finance, sincerity is not measured by volume. It's measured by maths. It has to add up. Let's go in. Harry, good night to you. So how you doing? Had a great day?
Good night, neighbor.
How are you?
It was a restful day, neighbor.
20 to 10 o'clock. Trust everything is going well with you. Did you get your exercise?
Yeah. I got in some routines, neighbor.
Yeah. Harry, am I correct that the best way to wean Jamaica from an $11 billion drawdown from the National Housing Trust is to grow the economy?
It is, neighbor. And I want to also point out the fact of that as well before I double down on it. There is actually a set time frame for the drawdown from NHT to end. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 2031. You can fact check me on that one, but I know it's in and around that region. Prior to this arrangement, we never had one. And as such, whenever we heard the government of the past said they were utilizing funds from the NHT, there was no end date whatsoever. And I want people to take that with a sense of understanding that there is an end date, which means there's a plan to get the country in a position where they no longer need to pull from that, or I call it a little reserve based on how it's operating currently. But that is also something in which we're looking towards as well.
Yeah. Am I not also correct, Harry, that you can't give up revenue once it is part of the fiscal infrastructure of the country? That it becomes very difficult, not easy at all. Especially that amount of revenue.
Precisely, neighbor. Because if you're to give up the revenue itself, it means you have to then go ahead and find a better alternative. And there's not a better alternative at the current moment, because taking on debt is definitely not one.
Yeah. And therefore, Harry, the discussion around this $11 billion seems a bit contrived, and there's some dishonesty in it, almost as if the government can just all of a sudden say, okay, 11 billion is out of the budget, without recognizing that that's a lot of money that the government will be giving up that it has budgeted for over the last many years.
It has, and the thing about it as well, neighbor, is that finding an alternative for that is one in which you may have to then go ahead and look around, not just ministries and government overall, but apart from borrowing, you have to put in place or try to fast track things to be more efficient that may not yet be ready to be executed on. Because I've heard of persons saying, hey, there are ways happening within government itself. I don't know of any government that will not have some of those things, right? Because not every entity will operate at optimum, right? That doesn't really and truly exist. But based on what we're going through now, you cannot fast track these things without either making mistakes when it comes down to procurement, or the plans and infrastructure have not yet been built out. Because one of the major things we've seen and was pointed out by Lisa Hanna as well is that there are a lot of systems in governance and in Jamaica that needed a big overhaul. Now, you can't overhaul everything altogether. And as such, you have to find a more prudent way of operating as a government. And currently, right now, that is the best option.
Yeah, oppositions are likely to criticize Harry, but don't you find it curious that during a time when the government resources are so strapped because of the hurricane, one would expect that the opposition, especially this year, would have backed off on this type of criticism to allow the government the fiscal space and the fiscal room. How would you be asking the government to give up $11 billion when the government is trying to find a recovery, is scraping for money to give people to recover themselves and build back their homes? Don't you find that the opposition's criticism at this time seems a little odd?
No, but I think it is not just odd, it is ill-timed, even as an opposition. Specifically why I said it's ill-timed is we're coming out of the hurricane, for one, something we've never seen of that magnitude before. We know what the revenue lost it is. We also know what it has done to our GDP, right, or production and productivity. And as such, even as an opposition who want to score political points, you have to be very careful how you go about it. And despite, I would have said that this budget reading actually gave the opposition a lifeline to be relevant and to also choose the people again, which would do well for them, putting their best foot forward for the people to potentially choose them, whether that is 2029, 2030. But what they're seeing is an opportunity to bring down the government, for one, but not putting themselves as a better alternative altogether. Because I've seen everything that is being done, neighbor. I don't hear one alternative. I don't hear their perspective on systems to put in place. I don't hear their contribution for how best to actually tweak some of these, whether it's a tax plan or policies or so on, to help the people. None of that is forthcoming. And as such, it falls flat in terms of them just wanting to score political points overall.
Yeah. I made the point earlier, Harry, that oppositions can promise reversals. Governments must face the arithmetic. Harry, do you see within the opposition rhetoric a clear path as to how they would govern? Because I'm getting the feeling that they are really talking, and much of their talk seems quite irresponsible. It doesn't appear to me, Harry, that this opposition recognizes or understands what it means to govern a country, especially in this global village with all the constraints that the government has. Why is the opposition not prescribing? Why are we not hearing more about their alternatives, their policies? Why is always criticisms? And if I may add, Harry, that a lot of times when Mark Golding criticizes, he comes across as out of touch, Harry, or almost as if he doesn't understand exactly what it requires to govern.
Well, to be honest, neighbor, there's a lot of major differences. And, I'm somebody who would have pointed out these. You can be a shrewd businessman, right? Because, of course, when you run a business, you're running for profit. And really and truly, feelings and emotions, doesn't take precedence in that aspect. But when it comes down to government, the government isn't there for profits, neighbor. So there are a lot of decisions you cannot make, right, as a government that you would as a businessman. And I think Mark Golding has found himself, out of his depth in this aspect. I'm not sure how well he's adapting and willing to learn how to actually, potentially govern a country in itself, because he himself has to be prepared not just to lead a few, right? Not to lead those who agrees with you, for one. And also, I don't think he does well with criticisms in itself. But what we would have hoped to see from the opposition was somewhat of a change of the old guard, right? And I say that very firmly. And when I mean the change of old guard, is less about the faces that are there, but more about the ideology that they're looking to put forward. I would have also mentioned, neighbor, that, this type of politics is foreign to the opposition. So they themselves, just like the leader, also may have found themselves out of their own depth, because this new way of politics, which puts the people first, is not just new to them, but also something they have refused because it's a change. And we know normally people in its initial stages refuse change, but this is now over a decade that this change has been here, and it's not going anywhere because the people themselves have subscribed thoroughly and wholeheartedly to what is benefiting them. That is this new way of politics and ideology that puts them first. But the People's National Party, Neighour, they have failed to understand that, listen, it is one in which they themselves need a transformation, and it starts with these opportunities that they're blowing. And as such, what they're doing is going back to their old strategies and tactical maneuvers where they will highlight the problem but have no solution and hope that the more noise and traction the noise gain, the less the spotlight will shine on substance that is needed to be put forward as an opposition. So as such, they have now wholeheartedly hold on to opposing rather than being an alternative. And you know, this is something we've spoken at length about. You know, they're embodying the terminology as an opposition. So they have to oppose without anything going forward. And that's not what Jamaican people require. It is definitely not what they're demanding. And as such, it is not something to bring Jamaica as a nation and a developing state going forward.
Isn't that a disservice though to the politics, Harry? Because even this matter of the NHT drawdown, one can argue, you know, that somehow we need to look at weaning the country away from it, but not to suggest that it should be stopped just like that. I'm wondering if the opposition is marketing to a set of persons that they hope will not analyze, extrapolate things out of what is being said and present facts, because it seems far-fetched to me as an argument to make.
Well, it is shown, Neighour. Mr. Golding came out and said it himself, you know that he pretty much governs for a portion of the electorates, which also doesn't take into consideration those who aren't necessarily electorates but are Jamaicans. And as such, they will practice that type of politicking to keep their so-called cohort of people, that 400,000 strong, which really and truly isn't 400,000 strong in a Neighour. We've spoken about the numbers on the decline. But, you know, the whole thing of time come, that sensationalism kind of tactics, which a certain section of Jamaica people still subscribe to, they hold to it, and they would have gone to the polls for that aspect. But the opposition currently is not looking to be an opposition for Jamaica. They're looking to be the opposition that governs for the people who supports them and the people who agrees with them. And the truth is, Neighour, we've seen it internally with them. Don't take what happened with Mr. Crawford lightly, because he would have had disagreements, and because it's public disagreement, basically, they show that they aren't afraid to remove one of their own. And that is a message to the people of Jamaica that really and truly the opposition isn't ready. They aren't fit just yet to be considered at the polls, much less to be given the opportunity to lead the country going forward. And it's a sad day and it's a sad state for our democracy, Neighour, because the truth is, and a lot of people will disagree with me here, but the truth is we do need a competent and a strong opposition to ensure our democracy functions the way it is. You know, it's not going to always be the best and the most efficient and effective, but democracy is what we have and it works. But currently the opposition is failing the people as an opposition and pretty much failing themselves, which means now the government pretty much have to also have their own guardrails, Neighour, to keep things like accountability high, transparency high. So really and truly, if we're not careful, the administration currently has to be both opposing themselves and governing
well,
to keep things well.
Their supporters should hold them accountable. Let me go to Andrew Walker. Good evening, sir. Hello. Walker. Hi. I'm not hearing Mr. Walker there. Open your microphone, sir. Hello. Oh, well, he's gone. I don't know what happened to these people at all. Are you going to get him back for me, moderator? Just give me a second. Let me jump on a little break here and get back to that gentleman. If he's on, we could take him before we go to Lavi. We're gonna go to Lavi soon. All right. How you doing, sir? Hey, Lavi, how you doing? Hi.
The protesters.
Hello, Lavi.
Hello. I'm here.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I have had better days, but I'm fine.
You have had better you have had better days.
Yes, I have.
Lavi, the subject on today's notes concerns the opposition, suggesting that the government ought to discontinue the $11 billion drawdown from the National Housing Trust. Let me ask you this about trust, Lavi. Do you think that the people of Jamaica largely trust the Holness administration?
Well, first of all, good evening, Harry. Good evening, Caroline.
Good evening, Lavi.
The fact of the matter is, September 3rd answered that question. Clearly, the Jamaican people saw enough in the Andrew Holness-led administration to re-elect them, despite the time come. We don't know what that was supposed to be, but the government was able to run on its own credibility despite an attempt to besmirch the Prime Minister's character and reputation. He still won a convincing election. And so, in terms of trust, I don't think it's an issue where the government is concerned, because, to be honest with you, we are here talking about this issue, but majority of Jamaicans tonight are not thinking about what we are talking about.
What do you think they are thinking about?
They have been here before. We have been here before, and taking money from the NHT has not made the country any worse. As a matter of fact, it has made it possible for it to maintain. It has made it possible for it to maintain its fiscal credibility.
Yeah, but stay on the trust issue for me, because I'm taking you somewhere. So you are saying that you feel that in terms of the leadership of the country, the majority of Jamaicans feel that because this trust now pivots into the decisions that the government is making. You feel that the people of Jamaica are confident that the decisions that are being made by the government, led by Andrew Holness, are in their best interests.
The government has indicated that it is going to levy some taxes, and it has been very careful in how it put those taxes in place to protect the poor and the vulnerable among Jamaican people. That is reason for deepening of trust that you have a government who is looking out for your best interests. The government also promised to move this threshold up to 1.9. And despite the fact that 40% of the GDP of our country has been eroded, the government is still making sure that it keeps that particular commitment, trying to free up money so people have more money, of their own money to spend. So these little things, along with all the other things the government has done, are the little things that people look at and say, you know what, we trust this government. So I don't think that there's an issue of trust here. I think that this whole matter of the NHT fund is just politics. It's golden. Golden is trying to capitalize on the crisis that we're in by saying that there are so many people who are without homes, and by taking this money from the NHT, we could have been helping those people. But the NHT is not building less houses because it has less money. That's not the problem. It has never been the problem. It's not a matter of money why the NHT is not building more homes. Just as how it's not a matter of money while our capital expenditure is not spent. There are other reasons why those things are not happening. So I really don't think that, listen, if the PMP did not remove the fence from around the core functions of the NHT back in 2005, then they would have been on a credible ground to criticize the government. Now, if you were criticizing the government to say that what you're doing has economic fallout to happen, then you could say something. So there's no economic basis to criticize the government. There's no moral basis to criticize.
In other words, the solvency of the trust is not in question.
It's not in question. Absolutely not. So and that is why there will never be. They cannot get the kind of political capital that they're looking from this particular event, because people know that when they apply to NHT, the NHT has never said to them, "We can't help you because we don't have money." Never. So it's not it's just a political posture, and it shows that the leader of the opposition is just trying to score political points. They were the first one to go into it 2005. They went back 2012. They went back 2013. Come on, man. These people there's no ground for them to they cannot erode trust in the government with this issue. No.
Okay, now there would be political operatives, though Labby, they would have done their political calculations. Why do you think they would be pushing this out? The leader go out, put out a statement on it, a video on it. How do you think they expect it to play?
They are feeding their people, and they know that their people who have less understanding of the reality. What Mr. Golin is aware of, he knows that his followers are not aware of it.
Yes.
And he throw the red meat out there so that they can run with it and make stupid statements. I just saw one of those on the internet making a post talking about the government is drawing out the money to from NHT. So I asked him, I said, you have a short memory. Where were you in 2005, 2012, 2013? Where were you all that time? So he said to me, this is the comeback to show you that they're not thinking. He said, so if you go to Rome and they're thieving, you're going to go and steal too? In other words, there is no credible reason to oppose it. None. And as you said earlier on, we will be able to wean ourselves off this when the economy is expanded. We have achieved fiscal stability. That does not give us the ability to get off the lifeline that the NHT has provided for the government. When the economy starts to grow and we start to expand, then we can wean ourselves off it. Yeah. But at this point, the only alternative we have would be to go and borrow, and that is putting more debt on generations to come.
Yeah, wouldn't that be correct, Lavi, to expand the discussion and suggest, even without being political, that that the 18.5 years of PNP mismanagement is why they had to go to the NHT for this money?
Yes, this is it. This was the first time, was 2005. It was around that time that the economy was in a bad place. This was a bad time for Jamaica leading up to FinSac.
Harry, could you check that for me? Because I heard Mr. Bolin saying it was in 2011 that they started. Is that so?
No, PJ first did it 2005, and he said that this was for some education transformation. I did my research.
That's
PJ
$5
did it
billion.
2005.
That's $5 billion. That's
yes,
$5 billion.
$5 billion. Yes.
Yeah. But the 11 billion for budgetary support. When did that start?
I think that started around 2013, I think. Because in 2012, they did go back for $1 billion for special distribution under the Ministry of Finance MOU. There was a $1 billion. So it was after that they went for the 11.4 billion.
They went in 2011. For the 11 billion.
Yes.
Yeah. So the $5 billion for the education transformation was in 2005.
Yes.
That's the first time they went.
Right.
And I think there was broad consensus around that. But my point is, had we an economy that was humming, that was people were working, and if we never had FinSac, we wouldn't have to do this.
40% of the economy was destroyed by that meltdown.
No, FinSac caused this drawdown.
Yeah, so and then the future renewal of this amendment to the NHT Act was done at one point to support the IMF fiscal target for the country.
Well,
So-
Lavi, let me
So
put it in
it wasn't
there
that. Yes.
under the Portia Simpson-led administration, the drawdown that happened in 2013 was a multi-year agreement. Well, I don't want
5
to
years.
agreement, but an amendment, of $45.6 billion from NHT over a 4-year period.
Yes.
So it's not even 5.
Yes. No. Yeah. So it was under them that happened, and we understood then the need to do that, because come on, if we can't wean ourselves off it now, what would we have done back then if we didn't have it?
Yes. Yeah. So go ahead.
From me, it's political, and anybody who understands what is going on in the country, the Prime Minister himself has acknowledged that we have achieved fiscal stability, and now we need to look at expanding and growing the economy. When we grow the economy, we can wean ourselves out of that. But until then, it is better to take from NHT, not incurring debt on the back of Jamaican people, knowing that we can wean ourselves off. I trust this government to take us where they say they're going to take us. Their records show that they are performing, and they will take us there, despite the crises that we're having. These crises I have confidence in this government that all the crises that we've been going through are opportunities for growth.
Okay. No, there's a view, Lavi, that the opposition leader in his recent pronouncement is coming across as, unpatriotic. People are suggesting that there's a crisis on the country. The opposition is saying the government should not be raising taxes. Now he's saying that the government needs to give back, not take money out of the NHT. How do you see this coming from an opposition leader, an alternative prime minister? What are the alternatives that would be available to the government? And if Golding were a prime minister, is Golding showing us how he would lead the country? Because what he is putting on the table without putting it on the table is that he will be borrowing a lot of money.
Remember now, this is the same man who was telling the government that then they don't need to be paying down the debt so much. It's time now to distribute that money, because they love to distribute. So this is an opportunist, and I am going to hold I'm going to hold on to most of what I could say about Mr. Golding on this issue, because I am mindful of how the political game is played, and I'm looking forward to his presentation in the parliament during the budget, that he will have proposals. I am excited to hear what the alternatives are when he presents in the parliament, because if you can't raise tax and you can't take from the NHT, then the only alternative left is to borrow.
Or to print.
And if you print, you are getting yourself in trouble.
Well, yeah. Let me see what's happening with the freestyle DJ. Good night to you, sir. Hello? Freestyle? No, brother, you have to do better than this. You asked to come up, and then you come up with your microphone closed. Hello?
Evening.
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
No, I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just listening to you guys. I have a question to ask you. In regards to the funds to which the Mark Golding they've been collecting for the hurricane thing, as they acknowledge how much they collected already?
Sorry, I'm not the PNP, sir. I don't.
No. I'm just asking a question for the fact that he's coming out hammering the government about taxation and what they should do. Right now, everyone knows there's a deficit. They're collecting money, and they're charging GCT on that money.
What do you mean charging GCT?
If you go on their website, where you donate money for the Melissa Fund, you have to pay GCT on top of that. You have to pay GCT.
No, hold on. Harry?
Michael.
No.
Neighbor?
Did you know that?
This is news to me, neighbor. Might
That
have
you
to
have
go
to
and
pay
try.
GCT on your contribution?
Yes.
I wonder if those funds are, is that so? You can check that for me. Hold on there for me, sir. Hold on. This is breaking news. I still miss you. I miss you when you leave. Don't leave, go anywhere. Yes, Maxwell. Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes. Have you made a contribution on the site?
No. I'm actually on the site. I've been looking on the site from Friday of last week.
You are on the site now?
Yes, I am.
You could tell me what is on it?
Okay, so when you go on the
Well,
site,
how you get to the site? Maybe I could pull it up.
okay, just type in PNP Hurricane Melissa.
PNP Hurricane Melissa.
Yeah.
Let me type that in. PNP CAIN Hurricane Melissa.
Right.
Yes. Let me see that what comes up here. PNP Hurricane Melissa. Yes.
So when you click on that, just click on where it say donate. Now. Donate now, yeah.
I wonder if I could donate at $50. Can they take 50?
I sent a screenshot of an attempt, neighbor. You can check our chat.
Yeah, okay. Oh yes.
So do you see the site now? Are you on it now?
100. You just donate $100. Scratchy. Now hurry.
No, neighbor, I just put in to see if it's actually a tax aspect or it's a transaction fee. So the platform actually that they use, WePay, is based in TT, which is Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd actually pay a fee. So similar to how you would send remittances and you are charged for it, it's something similar.
But if you look
okay, so who gets that money? That the fee?
That goes to the platform itself, which is WePay. But I'm seeing a section here.
If you look down to where it says next, it says transaction fee of 4.2% plus GCT.
Yes, I'm on the site. I want to send $50.
Oh, neighbor, you can't send $50 because my $100 charge.
I can't send $50. Now I'm trying to. I want to send $50 to the PNP tonight. Let me see. 50 Jamaican dollars. Let me see.
Does not work.
$100. I could send 100 Jamaican dollars.
To be at least 115.
$150?
15.
$15.
Yeah, at least.
Caroline transferred $15 to me. 15 Jamaican dollars. Let me see if I send $120. Okay. I send 120 Jamaican dollars. Okay. I have to put in my email address.
No, you don't.
I don't. Okay.
No.
Next. It's loading. It says loading. Oh, so it charges me $5.80 fee. That's a fee.
Yeah. Okay. So where does the GCT comes in?
I don't see that.
You don't see where it's
I would have to put it on my card.
Unless the site is operating differently all over then.
Well, I see a fee.
Because I am seeing a fee of 4.2%. And it's a plus GCT.
Mark Golden, PNP. Oh, this is interesting. Oh.
I've been trying to navigate this site from Friday.
You wanna send a donation to them, sir?
Oh no, I'm quite fine. So if you refresh your site and go back on your site, and let's say for argument's sake, you do $1,000, right? Now, when I do $1,000, right, it's still if I go to where it says add to the above amount, right, it have a 50-50 donate from above amount. Right. So if you do the 50-50, what I'm seeing on my end is that you pay 2.075% plus GCT if you do a 50-50.
50-50 means what?
50% goes, I guess, to Melissa. I don't know where the other 50% go.
Or to the PNP?
I don't know. I'm not gonna make that assumption. I don't know.
But hold on.
Right.
Then it has to be. Oh.
And then below that 50%, it gives donate, from the above amount. How much is going to be donated from the above amount? But if you click on that, there's no transaction fee at all or GCT. So maybe you're an intelligent man. Maybe you can explain it to me, because I've been trying to figure it out.
No, I'm not seeing any GCT on my screen. I don't know.
I screenshot everything and okay.
Yeah, send it to this number. 876-858-9553. Send it to that.
That's a WhatsApp number?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
876-858-9553.
1 minute. Let me just grab my other phone here.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. What's the number? 876?
Wow. 19 after 9. Everything
What's
is
the
fine.
number? 876?
876-858-9553.
You say 9952?
No. 876-858-9553.
Oh.
9553.
9553. So that's 876-853-9553?
No, sir. 858-9553.
858-9952. All right, let me do that. Okay.
We're gonna have to move. We're gonna have to move on. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. So you are asking if the government is getting anything from the PNP's website, eh?
Yes.
Okay, good question. What's your take on the NHT issue that is in the news?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, anything to do with, apart from borrowing outside funds and paying interest on it, where that interest is not going to turn around into the country, I would say go for it. Every day, if possible. Right, because it makes no sense you're drawing down from the World Bank, you're paying their interest rate, and that money is not being circulated back into the country. It's leaving the country.
Yes.
Right. So if you can take from your own pool and that money circulate back into the pool, it's a win-win.
Yes. So why do you think that the alternative government is objecting to this when they were the ones that opened the door to it in the first place?
Well, To me, it's a shell game on their part.
Shell games, huh?
Yeah, it's a shell game.
Uh-huh.
Like back in the days when those guys used to play that Crown and Anchor in the park.
Yes.
Right. That's what it is as far as I'm concerned. They everything, and the thing, I actually listened to him talking today with the music in the background at night, elevator music in the background, right? Talking about it. And it's like the whole thing to me just come off as a joke. It's
Comes off
just
as a joke.
yeah, it's just sheer hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if they were doing it, you couldn't tell them otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they wouldn't take any talk from anybody, because that is the norm for them. This is what we're doing. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Are you in Jamaica, sir?
No, I'm not.
You're not in Jamaica?
No.
Okay. But you follow the politics here, eh?
Very much so.
Yeah. And you seem like you are a supporter of the PNP.
Come again?
You're more supporting the PNP?
Maybe when I die in a different lifetime.
You say when you die, sir?
Maybe in a different lifetime, maybe.
Uh-huh. You would not support them?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
But why?
Look at it this way. I said it a few days ago. At the age of 12 years old, I don't believe anyone should come and give me a gun to say this is what you have to defend. Right?
Yes.
And I've been through that and no, it's okay.
Oh my goodness.
It's okay.
Right.
I don't think that's I have seen the stuff that they did.
Well, yes. Yeah, without getting too much into that though. You support the current administration?
Yes. I love what they're doing.
What exactly are they doing?
Well, okay. I said it before to a friend of mine that for the past 20 odd years, right, I have seen a building in Jamaica at the bottom of Arbor Street, right, where that building is there where they make furniture, emptied, hollowed out building. And right behind that building, there was a mango tree growing there, where that mango tree has been there for like 20 plus years, if not longer, 30 years. Yeah, 30 years safe. And nothing is going on. Now that building is, I think it's some security company in that building now. That place where there was an old derelict building, it's a lawyer's office, optical office. I'm just using Arbor Street alone. Arbor Street alone, to me, if nowhere else, it tells me that, hey, there is progress. Right? The government is doing, in my opinion, something that has never been done in 20 years. Right? I left Jamaica in the early 80s. And I've been back and forth to Jamaica, and trust me, for the past, I'm gonna say from 2017, right? There is changes gradually going on, and it's constantly going on. Right? I've never seen so many cranes. I've never seen a crane in Jamaica, to be honest with you, before. I've never seen a crane in Jamaica before, and now there's cranes all over the place. Right? I feel good when I come to Jamaica.
You feel good?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I feel good when I come to Jamaica. I never ever thought I would ever see a shipping dock in Port Royal at that magnitude to where it is.
Wow.
Right. I never thought I'd ever see one. Right. To me, Jamaica was, I don't know, Jamaica was like a was like a hole,
Like a what?
like a hole, like a deep dark hole.
Hole?
Yes, like a
Jamaica
pit.
was like a hole, sir?
It was like a pit, especially downtown.
A pit?
Yes, especially downtown.
Uh-huh.
Right. I can honestly say I have spent Thursday and Friday night in Coronation Market all night, just sitting there playing dominoes with people I don't even know.
That is when?
That's when I did that during COVID in 2020. I did that in what? I think 23 or 24. Yeah. I actually sat in Coronation Market and played domino with people I don't even know all night.
You got a 6 love, sir?
Well, it's you can't miss that.
You can't miss that when you go Curry. Go play
You
that.
can't miss that. No, but overall, when
Yes.
you really think about it, though, there's a massive turnaround going on in the country, right? There's no doubt about it. I'm gonna say only a blind man, no pun intended, can't see it,
Uh-huh.
right? Because really and truly, I don't know about yourself. I can only speak from my end of it, right? There's a few things in Jamaica that I see that could be changed, and I'm gonna say it will change. When you go to company office, for example, they have some stupid rules there where they say that you can't do your annual returns unless you're physically there. At least that's what they told me. Right?
Yes.
And my argument was, but you can register a company from abroad online, but when you do time for your physical return, you have to be in the country.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, sir.
Mhm.
I have Joshua, Lavi, and Harry. I need to get back to them. In terms of the recommendations,
Mhm.
the way we practice politics in Jamaica, I see over there in Barbados, for example, Mayor Motley winning all 30 seats. Obviously, although a low voter turnout, but the people of Barbados is endorsing her leadership.
Mhm.
As far as you can see, you think that this type of endorsement should come to the Jamaica Labour Party government going forward? You feel that the people of Jamaica ought to move away from the partisan thinking and endorse a leadership that is progressive, a leadership that, in your view, based on what you say, is doing well for the country?
100%.
Uh-huh. How then are we going to make that how are we going to communicate that to our people, sir? Because I get the feeling that a lot of people are still very partisan and without even thinking, they are locked into supporting an ideology, a party, and not the country on a broad scale.
Well, you see, the thing is, from my end of it, too, I look at it. If you take it from a biblical side of it, right? There's different parts in the Bible, different books where they talk in Jesus talk in different parables, right? Modern day society, when you take a Rasta man and you say, hey, and he will talk to you in a way where you can relate to him, right? There's the void between the dogma way of politics in Jamaica and present. It's going to take a lot of re-education. The people that need to recondition their mind and move away from the dogma way of thinking. Mommy and daddy politics is totally different from modern day politics.
Uh-huh.
Right? And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question now, finally, sir. Do you see anything positive that the opposition is suggesting, offering to Jamaica at this time? Would you want to explore that? Anything positive coming from that?
I'm gonna say yes, but then there's a drawback to it.
Uh-huh.
When they speak, I just see hypocrisy, and I don't trust them.
You see hypocrisy when they speak?
Yes.
You don't trust them, sir?
No, I don't.
But why would you not trust them?
Why would I not trust them? When you have a man that says X, and then he go back on his word, and then he come back and he says why, and he go back on why, and he comes with something else. How can you trust somebody like that?
Mark Golding is not a trustworthy man, sir.
I would never trust him.
No, but they call him the integrity boss.
Integrity for himself.
Oh?
How can you tell me to trust you when you don't even trust yourself?
Uh-huh.
I don't think he trusts anyone around him or himself. He's just, to me, he's like a Donald Trump. It's just about Donald Trump.
Uh-huh.
Right? So I don't know. I have to say, I have listened to them talk, and there's a few things that they say to which, hey, if you give it some thought, okay, this can work, right? But is the two sides gonna come together and gonna make it work?
Yes.
Right.
Would you like to see them return to power eventually?
I don't know if I'm gonna say I'm being speaking out of hypocrisy, but at the way they're going, no. At the way this government is going, no.
You think the PNP should stay in opposition?
As far as I'm concerned, right now, yeah.
For a long, long time?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Uh-huh.
They need to be in the wilderness for a while because they're not giving you anything positive to think about. Nothing whatsoever. Right? No, be honest. Like, if you think about it, you have Mr. Crawford saying one thing. You have this one is saying something else. This one is saying something else. And they're not very diplomatic. They're not a very diplomatic organization as far as I'm concerned. They're very crude. They're very crude. Right.
Well, sir, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute for me, please. Hang on a minute. Joshua?
Greetings, sir.
Joshua, you came here the other night and you spoke about the PNP to be disbanded. But before I even take you there, though, Joshua, do you remember the Outermany scandal?
Who could forget 90-odd million Jamaican dollars?
Well, it's a little bit more than that.
From NHT.
It was 1.5 billion. Huh?
It was 180 million.
See, twice the amount. 2 nights 80. Twice the amount. Eh?
Yeah. Joshua, would I not be correct that if we are going to frame the NHT drawdown debate, we would have to say that the cumulative failure of the PNP's management of the 18.5 years in power led the country to a place where it had to turn to an agency like the NHT for budgetary support? What led a country to that point?
Well, first of all, good night to the most beautiful host on TikTok.
No, sir. No, sir. You're calling me beautiful?
Why?
Huh?
I'm talking the person above Maxwell.
Oh, you mean Caroline?
His headlines. Yes, that beautiful queen that you have there.
Sir, you always come over here, come and try something with the moderator. Why you leave her alone, sir?
But you try and fail than not to try.
You're a charismatic charmer, Joshua. Afraid of you. When you come up here, sir, straight business.
Neighbor, don't make Joshua fool. Joshua made a mistake in the chat, so he's buttering up Caroline.
Oh, and she that easily buttered up, I can tell you that.
Boy, Harry, you wouldn't even let me get by.
Yes. This mother always come over here, come nice up, Caroline. Hello there, Caroline. How you doing? Hello?
Caroline ignoring
She's so focused on her job. She that. Hello, Caroline.
All right. So good night to everyone. Everyone, both first of all, your panel.
Yes.
Your panelists, and then the chat, and even those on the For You page.
Yes.
You ask a very potent question, and I have no choice but to agree.
Yeah, what I'm asking you is how did we reach to the point, Joshua, where government revenues were so sparse that we have to turn to a trust to help to bail us out?
Well, that's where I was going. It's a cumulative failure of the People's National Party that brought us here. After the 1970s debacle and the restoration of the 80s, then we saw where in the PNP, with the advent of high interest rates, the destruction of the productive society through FinSAC under the advice of the current leader of the People's National Party, et al. Mark Golding, then we saw the economy continuously declining. It's the first time in the history of Jamaica that we became familiar with the term negative growth, which is really, which really doesn't exist. It's a euphemism for a decline, right? And as a result of that, the government was left with no options but to raid, because that's what they did.
Yeah. Hence at the time, the Labour Party's strong objection to it.
Right. And the reason I used the term raid then and wouldn't use it now, because it wasn't to help the economy in the best sense of the word. It was to help the old boys and an economy that was floundering, an economy that was the laughing stock on the world economic scene. The World Bank and these people, Washington used to ask questions, has Jamaica failed yet? And these were some of the things that were being said about us and the realities of the day. And hence, that is why we have found ourselves where we are today. So
why is that not part of the discourse though? In terms of context, Joshua, to get the Jamaican people to understand that the door to NHT became opened by the very party that is now criticizing the drawdown. We should have never gone to the NHT in the first place. Had we managed our affairs well, we wouldn't have had to do that.
I think it's threefold. There's a threefold reason. I think it was Harry. No, it wasn't Harry. It was Protecting JA last night that made a very critical point, wherein he stated that any government that is entering into a budget, especially implementing new taxes, should have the persons on the ground, softening the ground, sensitizing persons as to the why behind the action that we're about to take.
Yes.
So it's really, I don't want to use the word failure, but for want of a better term, it's a failure of the government to communicate that effectively to the masses. That's one. Two, it's a lack of information or ignorance on the part of the wider public that helps to why that is not happening. And three, plain hypocrisy on the part of the PNP and their surrogates, right? Why we're not having this discourse. Because the PNP know that if this argument comes to the fore, then they will look absolutely bad. The worst that any party can ever look. It will bring out the skeletons from their closet, and they will have no way of recovering from this. In fact, they will have no moral standing at all in terms of trying to criticize this action.
Yeah, let me do a quick fire here and jumping over to Joshua. Coming back to you, Joshua. Scratchy?
Night, everyone.
You made a very important point last night, Scratchy, and I had to look at it today. That once a fiscal measure is implemented, it becomes part of the fiscal architecture of the government, and it's not easy to reverse. Isn't this part of the problem? That the 11 billion is now part of the government revenue measure, and therefore without expanding and growing the economy, the government is not going to be able to just give this up.
Yes, definitely, but persons might say that, yes, the PNP started it, so they're going to say that why the Jamaica Labour Party is continuing. Yeah, but it is very, very difficult, neighbor, when you're in opposition and you form government, neighbor, for you to roll back any form of financial means that is here, that is a part of the budget, without having or can find ways or you can plug that hole that you're going to reverse. So when the Jamaica Labour Party took government in 2016, neighbor, at that particular time neighbor, it wasn't possible for the Jamaica Labour Party to give up this $11 billion, even though it wasn't something that they were interested in, neighbor, something that they had back while the PNP while they were in opposition. Because at the time, neighbor, the economy was so fractured, neighbor, that it was very difficult for them to find time or find place or find space where they could find this $11 billion that they were to say to NHT, we don't want to take any more money from NHT. But where are we going to find this $11 billion? It will have to become from either new taxes, neighbor, which as a new incoming government you wouldn't want to implement. So yes, neighbor, the government have to follow suit, neighbor. It is very difficult for you to, when you form government, to kind of change course from certain things that are already set in stone and a part of the budget. So the government have to continue, neighbor. We'll see where the government said that they're gonna stop it by 2031. So we'll just have to give them some more time. I mean, I know they had plans, neighbor, to stop it early, and I can definitely tell you that Hurricane Melissa is one of the reasons why it is going all the way to 2031, because the government had plans to stop it before even 2031, neighbor. So we just have to understand that yes, it's a tit-for-tat situation right now where persons are saying that it was started by the PNP, so why the Jamaica Labour Party continue? And I think on the part of the opposition, neighbor, this is very disingenuous, neighbor, of Mark Golding. This is why I tell you that Mark Golding is a political dunce. Because if I was the leader of the opposition, neighbor, I would never bring up this as a talking point.
I wouldn't. Absolutely. I wouldn't do it at all, either.
I wouldn't bring up this as a point in time at no time, neighbor, because this
especially no. This
was started by a political party that I am a part of. So this is to show you how dunce and stupid Mark Golding is, neighbor. I tell you that this guy is not a politician all the time. So again, neighbor, Mark Golding just doesn't understand the political landscape, neighbor. And it is very difficult for the Jamaican
not reading the room at all.
Not reading the room at all, neighbor. This is going to cause problem in him again, because I know they make it a talking point, and I can definitely tell you, neighbor, that the Prime Minister, no less a person, the Prime Minister, will definitely correct this or adjust this as a part of his budget speech.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely attack them and tell them about it. So
oh my gosh.
Mark Golding again, neighbor, political dunce, neighbor.
Isn't it not true, Scratchy, that oppositions can talk, but governance, you have to confront the arithmetic. You have to confront wages, Scratchy. You have to confront bad roads. You have to confront debts. You know, government is a continuum, Scratchy. So you can't just go into government and change things up. And don't, it can be forgiven, Scratchy, when an opposition leader says something, because they never have all the facts.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're an opposition leader, neighbor, all right, case in point, neighbor, we formed government, Jamaica Labour Party formed government in 2016, neighbor. At the time, the government wanted to increase the threshold to 1.5 million, neighbor. Because the government was in opposition, the government was saying that based on what they are seeing and where they're standing from the opposition benches, this is what the books look like. But when the government took office, neighbor, when the Jamaica Labour Party won the 2016 election and took office, neighbor, they realized that what they were reading and what they were preempting and what they thought was their, neighbor, it wasn't that situation, wasn't like that. So the government now had to revert, neighbor, and implemented that 1.5 million plan in under a 2-phase period.
Yes.
It couldn't be implemented one time.
Yeah, that's Shaw spoke about phasing it in.
Yeah, it had to be phasing, neighbor. Even though the opposition at the time didn't have a phasing as a part of their plan, they wanted to implement it one time. But when they took office and you see the books now, you start to look at how the books look. You start to look at how they say teacher salary, government employee salary, social programs and all of those type of things, the health bill. And also you have to revamp now, so all right. Despite I said that I wanted to implement this to the 1.5, it has to be phased in. So the greatest thing is that the commitment was made, neighbor, and despite how it was implemented, it was done. And we are now reaping the benefit of that 1.5 million plan. And we now see we're at 1.9 million right now. So we just have to understand, neighbor, that yes, you can be in opposition, you can talk all you want, but it is very, very difficult when you come in government now, neighbor, to implement a lot of what you said. And even that's why Jamaicans understood that, neighbor. Why? That's why Jamaicans in the buying to the People's National Party $3.5 million increase in the threshold in the past general election. Because the Jamaicans are of the understanding that yes, PNP is one who always come to talk the talk, but whenever they come to government, neighbor, they can't walk the walk. And government just push them back for that.
No strategy. The obvious criticism, I wish if you could address that Wholeness objected to this while he was opposition leader. How do you respond to that?
Definitely neighbor. I for one also when the government when the opposition neighbor rejected it, my neighbor, I also rejected it, neighbor. Because if you look at if you look at the construct of the NHT, I know the NHT constructed neighbor, the mandate and the vision and the mission of the NHT neighbor, it wasn't set to do anything like this. It wasn't set, it was an organization that was created for any form of budgetary support, neighbor. It is the People's National Party who crafted legislation or whatever MOU in terms of
They have to adjust the law, they have to amend the law.
Yes. You have to amend the law and create some form of memorandum of understanding between the government and the NHT to go and take this money, neighbor. But at the time, the opposition did not agree with it, and Jones did not agree with it, neighbor. But the PNP still went ahead at it because they were the majority at the time. So now, yes, he did not agree with it now. So the person is saying to Scratchy, why when he did not agree, why when him get in turn government in 2016, he is still continuing with it. Because the $11 billion neighbor is not an easy feat, neighbor. If you see right now, the government is asking for $28 billion. So $11 billion neighbor is it's a lot of money, neighbor. And for you to take $11 billion.
Yes, Scratch, as I explained to the listeners, $1 billion is 1,000 million, you know.
Exactly. So 11 billion neighbor is a whole lot of money. So for you to form government in 2016 neighbor and come and say, all right, we're gonna take this $11 billion from NHT for budgetary contribution. The owners now neighbor and the pressure now will be on Andrew Holness neighbor and his cabinet neighbor to say, how are we gonna find this $11 billion then? Because that $11 billion has to be replaced in the neighbor. Because that $11 billion was being spent on something. Who knows? That $11 billion might be the hospital bill, it might be the school bill, it might be to salary in terms of salary increase and stuff like that. So there's a lot of thinking, neighbor, but the most important thing is, neighbor, that this government has made a commitment that by 2031, neighbor, they would take that drawdown from NHT. And I believe that this drawdown, neighbor, is a loan, you know. I don't think it's a grant or anything like that. I think it's a loan. So it is something that would be repaid over a period of time. So we just have to understand, neighbor, that that's how government works.
Yeah. Okay. Harry? There is a view in Mr. Golding's criticism that, and I heard O'Brien, that man on News Talk, saying that it is the 2007 to 2011 government of the Jamaica Labour Party that so ran the economy badly, that this money had to be continuing to take. Do you want to respond to that?
You speak. Was that O'Brien Chang?
No.
Oh, okay.
The one, he runs a program on News Talk. What is his name? Conrad O'Brien.
Oh, well, you see the thing about it, neighbor. You see, when you aren't in the position of one of the greatest meltdown in 100 years.
Yes.
Right? It's something Jamaica has never seen, especially not at independence. They haven't seen it when we were colonized either. And you know the saying, if the US sneeze, we catch a cold. And this is something that would have been brewing in the Western Hemisphere for quite a long time, right? And it was just a moment it would have taken for it to happen. And when it did, we didn't have that financial stance. We not even land back on our foot after what happened in the 90s leading up to the early 2000s. We weren't even in any form of recovery mode. We were still surviving, right? And as such, when you look at the instability that we had throughout the economy, it was rampant that we had brain drain for the greatest part of that period. There was no production and no productivity. And for somebody who doesn't understand that term, when we had the meltdown in 2008, it wasn't something Jamaica could avoid, right? It's not something we could have guarded ourselves against. We weren't even that strong in terms of our capacity to stand on our own feet as a small developing member state. We were still seen in that period, neighbor, running close to the grease of the West. I don't think people realize and understand.
But how did we get there?
The total meltdown from the 90s, neighbor. Remember, we were drawing and we were actually borrowing so much money coming out of the early 90s to the late 90s, borrowing so much money to fund our budget alone. right? There's no these money weren't for investments. These were just to foot the bill for the country. We gave away our best set of resources. We became uncompetitive on the global stage. That period was when the world experienced globalization, neighbor. And we lost, and you always hear me speak about, that sugar deal was one of the examples. We lost every single privilege that we had that made us somewhat competitive to not seem as a surviving country, because it was just hidden by the lack of information or the ignorance of the nation at that time, because so much vital information was being guarded heavily by the government of that time, right? And as such, it was one where we always hear of a two different country, just like how we always hear a two different tax and two different laws, one for the rich man, one for the poor man. That is how that narrative came about, because if you don't have access to this information at that time, neighbor, whatever decision you make will either be ill-timed, will also be one that you don't have enough data to make a proper prognosis of what you're dealing with. And as such, anything you do at that time, neighbor, was closer to failure as a people, not as the government, no, because the government had the information. They just didn't give it to the people. And we all know there's no money that a government can spend better than the actual people of the nation who knows how to get that money moving around in the economy to stimulate some form of growth, right? And for somebody to be that disingenuous to say that period in Jamaica's history, a 4-term stint,
4 years, 4 years,
right, was the reason why we had to do what we had to do. I think that person, neighbor, should actually come and apologize to the administration of that time and to the people of Jamaica, because it is not just being irresponsible with your words, it is knowing the truth, because I don't want to believe that he's ignorant to the level where he doesn't know what happened, right? I genuinely think he's just being disingenuous with a narrative, and as such, you want to spew that to the people to stir the pot and cause some whether that may be animosity or just to shake up people, right? But when you look at the magnitude and the responses that were taken, because remember, neighbor, in the 90s coming up to the early 2000s, the world was booming, leaving Jamaica behind. We were borrowing at double digits for interest. But yet still, why in that 4-year stint, Mr. Shaw was capable of borrowing at single digits when Omar Davis said it couldn't be done. And we're going to look at that 4-year stint to say it was what crippled Jamaica to why we had to do what we did of late. I think it's just pure trying to spew the narrative, neighbor, and twist it for the people who don't understand. And I think this is why this program will forever be one of the best in this space, because we're going to debunk it. We're going to give the people the information, regardless of, for example, we know where Scratchy stands, neighbor, and so on. But Scratchy will always tell you what it is and leave you to do with the information what you may. We will dissect it, yourself and others here, and give the information, the people the right information for them to think on it. We don't make decisions for people. And we won't lead them down a path that will make them less than where they were before, because we're all patriots and we want Jamaica to be better. But you have people with this type of quote-unquote influence because they have access to a medium that gets the senses of the people. And I think it's about time we now hold those persons to be responsible enough for what comes out of their mouth.
You're quite right. So you are saying, Harry, that 2007 to 2011 period must be looked at in the context of the global financial crisis that hit the world. And also, Harry, the fact that the government of Bruce Golding inherited a country that was really falling apart already by the 18.5 years of mismanagement. Were the people crying out for change, man?
Of course they were, neighbor. In fact, Mr. Golding at the time, the proper Golding, by the way, inherited over a $2.2 trillion debt. So he was well behind before he even took office. Yes. And as such, that is a part of information that these people tend to to eliminate, to fit a narrative, because you're going to say, right, he started a 2.2 trillion debt, but he's the one who caused the problem. He's the one is the reason why Jamaica is where they were. It is them just being disingenuous, neighbor. And the truth about it. Go ahead, Catherine.
Larry, not to cut you, and neighbor, to add to your question, neighbor, I can tell you what causing a neighbor. It's not the Jamaica Labour Party, Bruce Golding, and Raleigh Shaw that caused any problem, neighbor. It was the surrogates of the People's National Party, neighbor, who caused that, neighbor. When you have someone like the Teachers Association of Jamaica, neighbor, the Nurses Association of Jamaica, neighbor, the Medical Doctors Association of Jamaica, neighbor, even though we were under a world recession, even though we were in the IMF,
they're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, go ahead.
These surrogates, neighbor, the People's National Party, neighbor, they were forced, neighbor, they were armed and they were endorsed by the opposition People's National Party at the time, neighbor, to go and hold up the Prime Minister and push the government to bow to them.
You remember you remember that scene down at Parliament with Edith?
I remember Edith.
From the nurse. Mm-hmm.
I cannot forget Edith, neighbor. Neighbor, I said that lady named Edith. Your name Edith Alwood Anderson or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Neighbor, I can't forget that lady, neighbor. It was the PNP and them surrogates, neighbor.
Scratchy, you did not
PNP,
say
neighbor.
Edith Alwood Anderson. You did not say that.
All right, neighbor, the PNP has never been a very opposition party that looks out for the benefit of Jamaica, neighbor. The PNP only looks how it can gain political advantage whenever they're in opposition. They arm their proxy groups, neighbor, to go and attack Bruce Golding down at Parliament, neighbor. The government had to bow to them, neighbor, and give teachers a wage increase, give the nurses a wage increase, give doctors a wage increase, neighbor, and that caused the IMF deal at the time, neighbor, to collapse. That wasn't done by the Jamaica Labour Party. That was done by the PNP. And now, next one from the union, Lambert Brown, neighbor. He pushes union reps, neighbor, to attack the government. And that's what they did, neighbor, that caused the government to derail the IMF deal, neighbor. And God is so good, neighbor. And there's something that is called karma. That when they formed government, neighbor, now in 2011, late 2011, 2012, neighbor, the amount of pressure that they came under, neighbor, they couldn't manage it. They put the country in one of the most stringent IMF deals in the history of this world, neighbor. And what Jamaicans did, Jamaica booted them 4 years after that from office, neighbor.
And they haven't put them back. And they haven't put them back, eh?
Having put in them back, neighbor. That is karma. That is what they call karma, because you were supposed to be an opposition where you come to the country and say, listen to Edith, listen to nurses, listen to teachers, based on the recession that we're barely coming out of right now, and based on the IMF deal that we're in right now, it is impossible for the government to give you this wage increase. Just kind of calm down and settle. PNP don't do those things, but PNP only look at political advantage.
Just before that, didn't the teachers and I think the nurses had a wage freeze for 4 or 5 years even prior to, and they gladly signed it?
They were coming out of a 4 or 5 year wage freeze negotiation with the PNP, and they stood up and hold up. I can't forget, Edith stood up in front of Bruce Golding face, the man was going in Parliament, and Edith literally hold up the Prime Minister.
Yeah, quite embarrassing it was. It was
embarrassing.
Yeah, that's very nice of you, Scratchy, to have brought us back there. So what you're saying, there, Harry, is that it's not correct to say that the 2007, 2011 government brought on any financial hardship on the people of Jamaica.
No, neighbor. In fact, I'll go even further, because I want to debunk this thing that the People's National Party has put together, and I hear them running with it for a while, right? Praising the Portia Simpson Miller administration regarding that IMF deal. You see what happened, or what was being done when we went in that recession, neighbor? It was the start of changing out systematic failures, because we had the financial sector, neighbor, was actually started to be built out properly in that 4-year period, right? There were things that had to be removed, policies, procedures, because it was stagnating business-wise. It was holding the economy behind because of a lot of things. And we still see some of them now, which is what Mr. Holness is crying out for. No, in terms of bureaucracy, something that needs to be relaxed because of where we are now compared to why they had to be put in place. That system, that process started under Mr. Golding. And why I want to put certain things to bed now, where the People's National Party praised coming out of that IMF thing, it was one of the very first, if not the only time, that Jamaica itself was not run by a Jamaican government or its people. And I'm not talking for colonial times, right?
Jamaica was being run by who, sir?
By the IMF. And the thing about that deal, it was that we had no input in it.
You mean the 2011 to 2016 period? It wasn't Portia Simpson Miller that was the Prime Minister?
No, neighbor, we were
on paper.
We're being told what to do. We had no choice but to do it.
What you saying to me? But I thought we elected Portia as the Prime Minister. It wasn't she?
On paper.
Neighbor, on paper. it's call it this, and this is going to sound harsh, but it is reality. It was a puppet on a string.
What are you saying to me?
Because when you look back, right, and I'll find the video, I think Kalila touched a little on it to give people
Christine Lagarde was our Prime Minister at the time.
Yeah, because when you look at it, neighbor, the things that needed to be implemented were non-negotiable, right? And
by the way, you know, sir, you've just given me an idea. That period needs to be looked at. Therefore, though, you know, Harry, because that is so important. You mean we lost our sovereignty?
Of course, neighbor. We weren't being run by ourselves. We're being told what to do, and if it's not done, this is what is going to be the repercussion. That is what it was, right? And it wasn't one in which, and I'm happy for it in a neighbor. And here's why I said I'm happy for it before I start to debunk the whole People's National Party has been praising that period. Why I said I'm happy for it is that you see how we praise Jamaica flag being flown at Wall Street for I believe it's 2 to 3 consecutive years. For the
stop wasting money every month.
Yes.
It was actually because of the reformation and systems that were placed on the country by the IMF that got us to that area. But you will never hear, because the people don't know and understood what happened in that infrastructural change of the systems of governance and the economical ramifications that were happening that had to be removed. The IMF did that, and as such, we saw a period in Jamaica where we got a little relief, right? So the People's National Party cannot come and brag about that period because it wasn't done by them, right? And why I'm happy for it is that if it was left up to them, neighbor, you see that debt would have probably reached $3 trillion with ease. We wouldn't have been having, we wouldn't even reach the debt to GDP close to what was it? 62%, 62.1 thereabout. We would still be over 100.
What is this you're telling the people of Jamaica tonight, Harry? You're telling the people of Jamaica that in essence, we were brought back into systemic slavery. Under that era, we were not being governed from Kingston.
No, neighbor. Right? And the thing about it is that the opposition couldn't even have much of an input in it based on how things went, right? Because one, you're opposition, and then when you look at what is being done, it's the right things are being placed on the country, right? But as an opposition,
oh my God! But the IMF wasn't interested in fixing roads and all of them, something, man.
Neighbor, IMF needed to ensure that their money was being able to be paid back, and as such, you couldn't let the country fail. So they knew what this. They're all technocrats and everybody around the world with great intellect who knew what was happening, who understood the global system and how to make it work to their benefit. They had to protect their money because IMF don't lend money just for lend's sake in a neighbor. We know this. They have to protect their investment. And Jamaica, funny enough, our geographical location has always been a prime estate. We always hear them talk about prime land. Jamaica sits perfectly, neighbor, between 2 continents. Well, 3 if we're counting Eurasia, right? And as such, we are the hub.
Did this year the PNP brought us to Harry, to our knees?
Of course, neighbor. I don't even want to say to our knees. We're flat on our faces.
Hold on for me, please, brother. I tell you,
New Downey and 10.
this is fascinating. On the Politics Plus podcast tonight, 7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Get some water. We take a little break and come back.
I guess now it's time for me to give up.
Nobody does it like Harry and Scratchy. You have Joshua on this side there with Ups Maxwell. Oh, Caroline, you're on it.
Cup.